Have you ever felt it? That quiet, gnawing unease beneath the surface of your most cherished virtues. You strive to be good, to be kind, to be selfless. Ideals held up as the pinnacle of human decency. But what if that very goodness, the moral compass you've inherited, is not what it seems? What if, deep within its foundations, lies a secret history, a history of power, of struggle, and of a profound, simmering resentment? Today, we dare to look into the abyss of our values, guided by the unflinching gaze of Friedrich Nietzsche. Nietzsche, the philosopher who famously declared God dead, did not stop there. He took his scalpel to the very heart of Western morality, to the sacred cows of good and evil. In his incendiary work, On the Genealogy of Morals, he doesn't just question what is good, he excavates how our notions of good and evil came to be. This isn't an abstract historical exercise. This is an archaeology of your soul, your conscience. Prepare yourself for what Nietzsche unearths might shake the very ground you stand on, forcing you to confront the uncomfortable possibility that your goodness might be a carefully constructed cage, and the evil you condemn, a misunderstood power. This journey promises not easy answers, but a profound, perhaps unsettling, self-understanding. If you're ready to challenge your deepest assumptions and explore the hidden landscapes of the mind, ensure you subscribe to MindMirror. We believe true wisdom begins with fearless questioning. Now, let us delve into Nietzsche's first and perhaps most explosive genealogical dig. Think about the word good. What does it truly mean to you when you call an action or a person good? From where does that judgment arise? Is it an innate sense, a divine whisper, or is it something learned, inherited, perhaps even imposed? Nietzsche compels us to consider that this seemingly simple word has not one, but two radically different origins, born from two opposing perspectives on life and power. Nietzsche first transports us to a world dominated by what he terms master morality. Imagine the ruling castes of antiquity, the noble warriors, the powerful chieftains, the aristocrats who felt their superiority not as a matter of debate, but as a self-evident fact. For these individuals, good was a spontaneous self-affirmation. Good, in their language, was synonymous with noble, powerful, beautiful, strong, healthy, happy, everything that they themselves were. It was a valuation that flowed outwards from a sense of overflowing power and vitality. They looked upon themselves and said, "This is good." Consequently, bad was simply what was not them, the common, the plebeian, the weak, the sickly, the lowborn. It was a designation of difference, perhaps of contempt, but not yet of moral condemnation in the modern sense. This master morality, Nietzsche argues, is active, not reactive. It creates values from within. The noble type defines good first, and only then, as an afterthought, does bad emerge as its foil. There's a fundamental health, a life affirmation at its core. Consider Nietzsche's famous quote, "The noble type of man experiences itself as determining values. It does not need approval, it judges. What is harmful to me is harmful in itself. It knows itself to be that which first accords honor to things. It is value-creating." This is a morality of self-glorification, born from a plenitude of power that seeks to overflow. Generosity for the noble is not an act of pity, but an expression of this superabundance. They honor the powerful in themselves and in others, who can command and keep silent, who embrace severity and hardness. There's no apology for their existence, no need to justify their strength. This is the world of the hero, the creator, the one who stands apart. But you might ask, where is the evil in this picture? Where is the moral condemnation we are so familiar with? For the noble type, the bad man is simply the despicable one, the one lacking power, skill, or a certain robust health. He is not yet the evil enemy who must be morally damned. This distinction is crucial, for it sets the stage for a dramatic, and in Nietzsche's view, a fateful revaluation. So, how does this ancient master morality speak to you, living in the 21st century? It forces us to ask, when I use the word good, am I affirming my own strength, my own capacity for creation and self-mastery? Or am I merely conforming to an external standard, perhaps one that subtly devalues power and self-assertion? Are there areas in your life where you instinctively admire strength, decisiveness, a certain unapologetic vitality, qualities that our prevailing morality might label as arrogant or selfish? Nietzsche isn't necessarily telling you to become a noble warrior of antiquity. He is, however, providing you with a genealogical tool to excavate the origins of your own value judgments. He wants you to see that goodness isn't a monolithic, divinely ordained concept. It has a history, a psychology, But what happens when those who are not the noble, the powerful, the self-affirming, begin to create values? What happens when the slaves, the oppressed, the suffering, the weak, turn their gaze upon their masters? This, for Nietzsche, is the starting point of a profound and world-altering event, the slave revolt in morality. The slave morality, in stark contrast to its noble counterpart, begins by saying no to an outside, an other, a not itself. Its creative deed, Nietzsche argues, is born out of resentment. This is a key Nietzschean term, often translated as resentment, but it carries a deeper psychological weight. It's a festering, poisonous blend of envy, hatred, impotence, and a thirst for revenge that cannot be acted upon directly. The slaves, those who are weak, oppressed, and suffer under the dominion of the masters, look upon the nobles and their values with this venomous eye. The master's strength, health, happiness, their very goodness, becomes, for the slave, evil. You noble ones, you powerful ones, you masters, you are evil. This is the cry of resentment, and from this negation, from this profound no to the values of the powerful, a new set of values is born. If the masters are evil, then what is good in slave morality becomes everything that soothes the existence of sufferers' pity, the kind helping hand, the warm heart, patience, humility, friendliness. These are the qualities that make life bearable for those who cannot assert their power directly. As Nietzsche puts it, the slave revolt in morality begins when resentment itself becomes creative and gives birth to values, the resentment of natures, that are denied the true reaction, that of deeds, and compensate themselves with an imaginary revenge. The good of the noble was active self-affirmation. The good of the slave is a reactive negation of the other. Nietzsche delves deep into the psychology of this resentment-born morality. It is, he claims, a cleverness of the first order. The weak, unable to triumph in open combat, resort to a spiritual revenge. They reinterpret the world, revalue all values to make their own condition, their own weakness, appear as a strength, a virtue. Suffering itself can be reinterpreted as a sign of chosenness, a mark of moral superiority. The meek shall inherit the earth. This is the ultimate triumph of resentment. Nietzsche doesn't deny the power of this slave morality. In fact, he sees it as having achieved a monumental historical victory, particularly through Judeo-Christian ethics, which he views as its most sophisticated and successful expression. He speaks of the 2,000-year fight between Rome representing master morality and Judea representing slave morality, and declares that, for now, Judea has triumphed. That the lambs feel resentment towards the great birds of prey does not seem strange, but this is no reason for holding it against the great birds of prey that they snatch little lambs. And if the lambs say among themselves, "These birds of prey are evil, and whoever is least like a bird of prey, but rather its opposite, a lamb is he not good," there is no reason to find fault with this institution of an ideal. Even if the birds of prey should look down with a little irony and perhaps say, "We don't feel any resentment towards them, these good lambs. We even love them. Nothing is more tasty than a tender lamb." This parable is brutal, but it encapsulates Nietzsche's core argument. The values we often take for granted as universally good may have originated not from a place of inherent truth or divine command, but from the psychological needs and resentments of specific groups in specific historical power struggles. So, why does this genealogy of morals matter to you? Because, Nietzsche would argue, the legacy of this slave revolt is deeply embedded in our modern consciousness, in our institutions, in the very way we judge ourselves and others. When you feel righteous indignation towards someone's success, is it truly a moral judgment? Or is there a whisper of resentment when you praise humility or self-sacrifice? Are you celebrating genuine strength or a sophisticated form of powerlessness? Nietzsche's genealogy is a tool for radical self-honesty. It challenges you to look beyond the surface of your moral pronouncements and to question the source of your values. Are they life-affirming, born from your own strength and creativity? Or are they reactive, born from a hidden fear, envy, or a desire to level down what is powerful and exceptional? We've explored how Nietzsche believes our core moral values might be rooted in ancient power struggles and the subtle poison of resentment. But this raises an even deeper, more unsettling question. If our traditional moral framework is so questionable, how has humanity coped with the inevitable suffering and apparent meaninglessness of existence? And why do we so often find ourselves drawn to ideals of self-denial, of asceticism, even in a secular age? Nietzsche, in the third essay of the genealogy, turns his attention to what he calls the ascetic ideal. This is the ideal that finds value in self-denial, chastity, poverty, humility, in essence, a turning against the world and the body. And the key figure in propagating this ideal is the ascetic priest. This priest, Nietzsche argues, is a paradoxical figure. He appears as an enemy of life, a denier of earthly desires, yet his function, historically, has been to preserve life, albeit a sick and suffering life. How? By giving suffering a meaning. For the vast majority of humanity, who are not the noble, self-affirming types, life is often a heavy burden. They suffer, they feel weak, they are plagued by resentment. The ascetic priest steps in as a physician of sorts for these sick souls. He doesn't cure their sickness in a physiological sense, but he reinterprets it. He tells them their suffering is not meaningless. It is a sign of guilt, a punishment, or a test. He offers them a target for their resentment, not their oppressors, but themselves, their own sinful nature. He provides them with tools for self-discipline, for redemption, fasting, prayer, self-mortification. These practices, Nietzsche claims, provide a form of activity, a way to discharge their dammed-up will to power, even if it's a will turned against themselves. Nietzsche's analysis becomes even more radical when he extends it to the very will to truth that underpins science and philosophy. He asks, what is the meaning of this unconditional will to truth? This belief that truth is the highest value, even if it leads to despair or the destruction of comforting illusions. Could it be, he provocatively suggests, the last and most subtle manifestation of the ascetic ideal? This unconditional will to truth is faith in a metaphysical value, the absolute value of truth. The scientist who sacrifices all for truth, the philosopher who relentlessly pursues it, even to the point of nihilism, are they not, in a sense, modern ascetics, denying the superficial comforts of life for a higher ideal? And what if this truth itself, this relentless pursuit of objectivity, ultimately leads to a devaluation of life, a recognition of its ultimate meaninglessness? This, for Nietzsche, is the danger that the will to truth, born from the ascetic ideal, might culminate in a will to nothingness. Man would rather will nothingness than not will at all. This is Nietzsche's chilling conclusion. The ascetic ideal, in all its forms, provided a meaning for suffering, a goal for the will. Even if that goal was ultimately a negation of this world, it was still a will. Without it, humanity faced a void, a terrifying meaninglessness. How does this unmasking of the ascetic ideal impact you? It invites you to scrutinize your own pursuits, your own ideals, especially those that involve self-denial or a devaluation of earthly happiness. When you sacrifice pleasure for a higher goal, be it knowledge, art, or even spiritual growth, what is the true meaning behind that sacrifice? Is it a genuine affirmation of a richer, stronger life, or a subtle flight from the complexities and perceived dirtiness of existence? Are you, in your pursuit of truth or meaning, inadvertently embracing a form of the ascetic ideal that might, in the end, lead you to devalue life itself? Nietzsche doesn't offer easy answers. He offers a profound challenge to find a meaning for suffering, and a way to will that affirms life in all its tragic beauty, without recourse to otherworldly ideals or a will to nothingness. Can you create such a meaning for yourself? Nietzsche's genealogy of morals is not a comfortable read. It strips away our most cherished illusions about goodness, conscience, and truth. He reveals how master morality, born of strength, was overthrown by slave morality, fueled by resentment. He uncovers the bad conscience as a mechanism of self-torture, and the ascetic ideal as a desperate and ultimately life-denying attempt to give meaning to suffering. But the purpose of this unmasking is not to leave us in despair. It is a call to self-awareness and self-creation. The takeaway: dare to conduct your own genealogy of values. Question the source of your goodness. Confront the resentment that may lurk beneath your judgments, and strive to create a meaning for your life that affirms, not denies, its inherent power and its often painful beauty. This is the path beyond good and evil, the path of the truly free spirit. What are your deepest moral convictions, and how might Nietzsche's genealogy challenge them? Has this exploration sparked a revaluation within you? We at MindMirror believe these are conversations worth having. Share your reflections, your aha moments, or your disagreements in the comments below. If this journey into the depths of morality resonated with you, please like this video, subscribe for more philosophical excavations, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next descent into the human psyche. Until then, keep questioning. The interpretations of Friedrich Nietzsche's philosophy presented in this video are for educational and reflective purposes. They are intended to stimulate thought and discussion. Nietzsche's work is complex and open to various readings. We encourage viewers to engage with his original texts and form their own understanding. This content does not endorse or promote any specific ideology or course of action that may be harmful.